welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, and we have a great episode this week with lots of information we're going to be talking about. Our Mayor, Scott Galvin, will be joining us. We've got lots of stuff to catch up on. Darlene Mercer-Bruin, our Ward 5 City Councilor, is here, and we're going to talk about Shake Shack, she's promised me, along with a whole bunch of other things. So excited about that. And Rory Lindstrom from the Rec Department is here. And as many of you hopefully participated in, there was a big survey that went out about programs and what people are interested in. So we're going to talk about the results for that survey and what's coming on. So lots of good stuff going on. Welcome, Scott.
Welcome. It's good to be here.
So I have a couple of things to chat with you about today that I hadn't anticipated ahead of time, but there's been lots of questions. So I thought I'd start there. The first one is, people were like really looking forward to paying their excise bill, apparently, and were wondering where they were. I'm not usually as enthusiastic about, bills that haven't quite come yet, but I thought I would get clarity. People, I think it's a good thing. They want to get on top of it. When do excise bills go out?
So the excise bills go out at least 5 or 6 times a year. The big one does go out right around this time in February. So they should be issued shortly. One of the things that we have, Samantha, is at the first of the year we do try to stagger them. So we have a water bill, semi-annual water bill that goes out. We have the tax bill that goes out, and then we have the excise. So we do try to be cognizant that people are getting them. They don't want to get them all at the same time. So I'll check with the treasurer, but I thought that excise tax bill was either had been already issued or was planned to go out right around now.
Great.
But they do go out. This is the big one. So this is the big one.
That's what I was wondering. I think people are just used to kind of this time of year and they're trying to plan. So I don't think anybody's upset it hasn't come yet, but they want to make sure they don't miss it. So that's good. Census. So I believe that the city census was sent in the mail.
Yep.
Is that correct? I have a big old pile of mail.
Yeah, that city census just came out.
Okay. And there isn't a way to do that online, is there? I just wanted to confirm that for folks. I've only seen, I think people.
No, I don't. It's a mailed copy.
Okay, no problem. I want to talk a little bit about you had met at City Council last week and you had talked about library trustee positions, and we touched on it a little bit. And this next upcoming meeting, you're going to be nominating some trustees. I thought it might be helpful for people to just understand the process you're going through now, but also as if the legislation passes and there's additional positions, how you're thinking about that.
So that's a good question. So the working with the city council, we're trying to put legislation forward that ends the lifetime, and we say the so-called lifetime trustees of the habit. So we're looking to end that. It's outlived its time, I think, and we've seen how it's come to pass now. And there have been a number of good lifetime trustees who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I just think now, there have been certain issues that have happened that have come to light that have really brought this process onto a much more needed response, and that's where we're at now. So those 6 lifetime trustees. The way the legislation reads, they'll be there once it passes the city council, then goes to the state. Upon approval from the state, those 6 lifetime trustees will end, and we'll appoint 6 new trustees. And the process that we'd like to see, and I'll work with the council a little bit, is that be a wide open process where we telegraph that and let people know that it's coming. We want resumes. We want a well-rounded, diverse board, and we'll be putting together some type of posting for the newspaper, for the website, and for you to get out there, of course, and let people know that we're really looking for a diverse group. And those 6 trustees will serve for 3-year terms. In the meantime, I have 3 trustee positions that are the terms are up, and we're looking to replace that with 3 new trustees. And my plan would be that they be for a 1-year period. To kind of stir the ship straight during this period of a little bit of uncertainty, and actually to get some certainty back with some stronger direction and issues that are going on in the community. So we'll be submitting 3 names to the council on Thursday.
Great. Excellent. Thanks for giving us an update about that.
Yeah.
I know people have been really curious, so that's great. It is February's Black History Month, and I know SCI has a couple programs running, and I checked in with the library, and next week I'll share some of the book list stuff that
Good.
they sent me. I didn't know if there's anything else happening in the city that you want
We
to.
haven't undertaken any initiatives. I know there's some other groups, like you said, like the library and SCI. Right now, it is a very important month, and there are a lot of different resources for people to get to. And I know the schools are doing in different classrooms, they're doing things. And, right now we've been kind of all focused on the COVID issues with testing. And now we're swinging into the vaccine. So that's been really time consuming. It's been really gratifying, but it's taken a lot of our time. And we had a very successful clinic, vaccination clinic last Thursday for the 75 plus. We did 125 vaccines. This week, we're doing the second round of vaccines for first responders on Wednesday and Friday, and that's about 200. And then we've got on Thursday, we did receive 200 vaccinations for 75 plus, so we have another 200 on Thursday. Making the calls, trying to spread the word out to get people to come. So it's been really, really busy. It's been great that our allocation is going up every week, and we expect that to go up. We're at 200 this week. We expect it to go up to 300 next week. So we'll be able to get more convenient for the 75 plus who can't or don't want to drive down to Gillette Stadium or to Fenway. And for those who really want it, we still continue to urge them to look for other state sites. But if they can wait and we keep getting our allocation, we'll keep trying to do 200-300 a week, which is great.
That's great. And so I think it's such a relief as we're starting to see some people who are most vulnerable get their vaccine. So I love to hear that. That's really good news. You mentioned schools, so I want to talk a little bit about the schools. So one of the things that some cities are doing is what has been described as pool testing. And like my son's campus does it, where they actually sort of test people regularly, even when they're not symptomatic. So the schools did send out an opt-in communication out, my understanding, to families that said, if your child is symptomatic, do you give us permission to test? They had to say yes before that would happen. But that helps parents not have to scramble before they can come back to school and find a test. It can streamline that process a little bit. Do we have any plans to do any of that more broad-based testing, sampling, or anything in the school system?
Well, right now we haven't looked into that, and the state has made that much more readily available. It still takes a lot of planning, and they had you get a 6-week pilot program if you wanted to do it, and then you would continue. I've discussed this with Matt. We've talked a lot. He's talked to his administrative staff and whatnot. And they feel that these Abbott rapid testing, which you referred to as the parents have to opt in and the teachers opt in, it's certainly not as extensive as the pooling that they're talking about, but it does help as well. So they can give that immediately to somebody who might have very mild symptoms, might not be COVID, but have very mild symptoms, so they can administer it very quickly and easily. But the pool testing, we continue to look at it. We look at getting into it. Right now. We haven't. I think our focus right now is getting the vaccine to teachers, and as soon as the governor authorizes that vaccine for teachers, and I'm one who can't, I support everything the governor's done. I think he's done a fantastic job handling this, but I just can't understand why teachers weren't included with first responders, because that's such an important thing. Not only, we talked about this you and I last week, and when Matt was on, such an important thing for the teachers and to get kids back into school, but also for the economy too. So, we get the kids in school and parents can work. So I question that, and the sooner that we can get the vaccine to the teachers, the better off we're all going to be, and the better off the kids will be back in school.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And, schools are complicated because children actually are not, there isn't a vaccine that's
right
for, I think, under 16. I might have the cutoff wrong, but certainly not young children. And so teachers being fully all staff, I say teachers, but really we mean a proxy for
everybody
staff that work at the schools, to be vaccinated is an important part of being able to get students back in the classroom.
Big time. And you still keep in place, to the extent that you can, you keep, not to the extent, but you keep in the important, social distancing, the mask wearing still imperative and the hygiene, but it goes a long way to getting back to normal. The teachers can get the vaccine.
Yeah, I think it's great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to give a quick update
No,
on?
I know you have Darlene, I know you have Rory, and we can start focusing in on some of the capital projects that are going on as the weeks come by, and what we have planned for the upcoming budget, which is we just began the budget process, so those are issues that we can start talking about as well.
Great. Awesome. Well, I'm so glad. Thanks for joining us, Scott. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Darlene, thank you for joining us. Thrilled to have you as always.
Thank you for having me.
So I want to kind of pick up on the conversation we started to have with Scott. At the trustee meeting, you were very supportive of the library trustees' lifetime terms being changed.
I mean the city council meeting.
Yeah,
last week.
what did I
Yes,
say?
I thought you said trustee meeting, but the city council, that's okay.
It's very possible I said
Yep.
trustee meeting. What I meant was
Yeah,
the city council meeting where we talked about the library trustees
Gotcha.
legislation. That thank you for making me talk more coherently. And you were very supportive of removing lifetime appointments. And what I thought would be helpful for the audience is just your perspective of why that's an important thing for us to consider and move forward with.
I really believe it was a long time coming, Samantha, and the situation over the last year exacerbated things, obviously. But I have long believed that the trustees of the library should mirror how we handle our other boards. And this legislation does that. So I'm excited about it. I think the community is going to be excited about it. I'm glad to hear that there'll be a lot of information for people to get involved if they want to send in their resumes. One of the most important things, if you're going to be a trustee of the library, is to be an advocate, not just for the library, but the community in which it serves, right? And I think we've sort of strayed a little bit from that. And there'll be a great opportunity for many people to get involved, to keep our community involved. And I want to be very clear about something. I think change is good because it helps us to grow, right? And tradition is also important, but we can't be so tied to our traditions that we don't have an open conversation about other things that might make us better, right? So I understand the tradition of the lifetime trustees. I understand all of that, but I really think this is a very positive step for our whole community, and I'm looking forward to supporting it next week. And I'm really glad to hear that people have asked me how will that process work, and I assumed it was going to happen the way all of these appointments happen, and the mayor just confirmed that. Resumes will come in. You don't necessarily have to have a background in library science to be one of the trustees. So it would be great if we have a really diverse group of people that represent what our community looks like, right? Because not everybody uses the library the same. A 3-year-old doesn't use the library the same way as a 13-year-old or, a 50-something like me or someone older, right? So the more diverse the board is, I think the more we'll be able to serve our community, which is very exciting. It's very exciting.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's such a great opportunity for us to have a committee that reflects our full community and all the different ways that the library is. And the library is used in lots and lots of different ways by lots of people. Even in my, at one point I had young children and we used a lot of the, programming for young kids, but I have young adults children now. I have my own things that I like to do. So I'm excited about it. It really is a community hub, and being able to keep some wonderful traditions that we have. It's this beautiful historic space. It's amazing. and also bring in new things and try new things. It's a great balance.
Touched on something also, Samantha, that's very important, is the building itself, right? So there's all the activities that we can have and all the different programs that we can have, but that space itself is so beautiful. We should, I think, you know, as a taxpayer, we could be using it in so many different ways. I've heard people say, gosh, I'd love to have a small wedding ceremony there. It's so, I'm, you know, not suggesting we have catering and all that, but there's so many ways we
I
could
would have
utilize
loved
that
to take
space.
my wedding photos there. I
You
don't know,
know?
but you know, like I'm a big history buff, and my husband's a Civil War reenactor, and that building is just amazing, right? There's just so
Yeah.
many ways that we can.
Community meetings, right? Neighborhood meetings. It's just, there's so much more potential. Obviously, COVID has restricted many of those things, but I'm hoping with all of these changes as we move forward, we'll see more, you know, in the COVID world too, right? Things are absolutely getting better. So I'm hoping to see things like that too. It's exciting.
I love it.
Change is hard, but it's also
Yeah.
exciting.
It can be really liberating. So I'm glad to hear that. Let's talk about Ward 5 a little bit, right? So we have, you have a lot of construction and new development in that ward. Tell us a little bit about what's going on. And I know you know this because you get asked this question probably 10 times a day. People are very excited about some things, but they're also trepidatious about traffic impact and impact on schools. And I think even though I know these things have been talked about, it never hurts to sort of reassure and let people know what is being done and what we anticipate and the decisions that have been made there.
Okay. So the biggest active construction project that's going on right now is the Woburn Mall, right? So, and the news about Shake Shack is February 22nd, Samantha. So go down and get in line.
You have no idea how happy you just made me. That is way sooner than I thought. Oh, good news.
And I know traffic is always going to be an issue, right? Part of the good news at the Woburn Mall is the mall was always there. So it was, you know, it was a reboot, right? But also the transportation center is there, right? So the idea is that hopefully it's this little city, right, within a city. And the housing that is being built that will be open in June. Many of those folks, it is anticipated, will use the transportation center. That's why it's called the 40R development. And I believe that will absolutely help with the traffic. So when we put this whole thing together with the community, and I think you know this, we had all these community meetings and working sessions. And one of the things that was very important to do was to do a full study of the corridor, a traffic study of the corridor, which included Mishawam, Washington, up to the lights at Salem. And that study is complete. So we've just received it back. It's my expectation that the council will get a full briefing on that. So the public can see all of that information and figure out what we're going to do with it, right? In terms of where the recommendations are, and how to implement them as quickly as possible. Sometimes I joke and I say, well, is there any possibility in those suggestions that everybody gets a helicopter? Because you know, sometimes that would be the quickest way to get around Washington Street. And I, you know, the traffic it's there. It's been there for a long time, and it would be silly for me to say it's going away. The best that we can do is work on things to mitigate it. Last time we met, I talked to you a little bit more about the Cedar Street slip ramp. So we started that a couple of years ago with a small study to see if it was feasible. And then very quickly took it to the next step to do a design conceptual plan, which is complete. And I'm going to get a briefing on that from city engineer Corey and the mayor on Friday. But in addition to that, and then of course it will be scheduled with President Higgins and my fellow council members. So the whole city can see the results of that. But even more importantly is with help from our state rep Haggerty, a $10 million bond has put in place to help with that Cedar Street slip ramp, which will absolutely help with getting some of the traffic off of Washington Street and off of Mishawon Road. So I have to say, I'm very happy to report about that because it is very recent news. I did my newsletter back at the end of November and didn't have that information yet. So it was like Christmas. It's like, woohoo! The things I get excited about, Samantha, right? So,
you know,
I was so thrilled.
Woburn is no different than a lot of cities, which is there's new development, there's changing, people are moving in, people are moving out, there's all kinds of things that will continue to change and morph. But I love hearing that we're thinking about and being thoughtful and doing the studies necessary and hopefully using that information to make updates and changes like this. That's right. Great
I
news.
was so excited about that bond. Now I know how this process works, you know, with the Montvale Ave widening, it was a long time, but we seem to be, the more Woburn does these projects, we seem to carry even more influence. And part of that has to do with the economic engine that we have here in Woburn, because the state gets their check once a year, and it's a big one that they get from our little city in Woburn. So we should be getting attention when it comes to these projects. And I'd like to see us get, you know, the Washington Street Bridge needs to be done. That is a huge project. And I know that our representatives are working hard to see that that gets done as well. Obviously, Montvale Ave, the widening of Montvale Ave, we missed a couple of beats because of COVID. So we're not looking at completion until November of 2021, which, gosh, isn't that far away, but that too will help. People avoid Montvale Ave now, as they should. It's terrible. I'm not going to pretend it's anything but terrible, especially because we've got 3 projects going on over there. You know, we've got the water lines, the Eversource work, and then the actual widening. But when that's done, that is also going to help with all the construction that's going on. But you touched a little bit, you touched on it about impacts to schools with some of these housing projects, right? And for me, it's not just the schools, it's impacts to our police, to our fire, to our DPW. We're coming to a point where we need to, I think, we can't stop moving and growing, but we need to pause and to make sure we understand exactly what these impacts are. And maybe it's time that some of these projects are much smaller. And I don't think maybe is the word. I think it's time that we see these projects get cut down. You know, some of the ones that are in front of us now, I'm very concerned about. And again, I understand as a community, we can't stop growing, but we have to manage our growth. It's very important for us to do that. And I think we've got some really smart people in this city. And I think we can do that if we're mindful about it and we're willing to have those open conversations. I really believe that to be the case. So we'll get there.
Well, thank you for sharing that update with us. I think there's lots of good news there. My personal favorite, of course, is the Shake Shack will be opening up soon. And I can start counting down the hours till I get my first fabulous shake. I'm actually one of those people, like, I will never be there on opening day because that's crowds. And like, even pre-COVID, I have no patience for that.
Right.
But I'm going to go at like, if they open at 11, I'll be there at like 10:55, one random Thursday, you know, and nobody's there to get my shake. So I'm super excited about that. Last thing I just want to talk a little about, it's February and it's snowing this year. We're not getting off easy like we have in the past. I mean, this last storm ended up not being too terrible, but it was still
At least the
snow.
snow wasn't heavy this last
Right?
storm.
The storm before was awful. And I'm just going to say this because somebody will catch me. I didn't shovel. My husband and my children out and shoveled. I didn't do any of the hard work, and because they will call me out on it if they think that I'm implying otherwise. But we are having a lot of snow, and we're expected to have more snow. It's going to be a snowy February. What do you want residents just to be aware of in terms of their? We've talked in the past about we don't have an official like fining system or anything in place, and nobody wants that in terms of telling residents you absolutely have to clear it or you're going to get a ticket. But we do still need our help, I think, right, in clearing sidewalks and stuff as much as we. And so what guidance do you give, residents in your ward about this?
First and foremost, I would say to everyone, your safety is the number one concern, right? And it's not just safety of walking on the sidewalks, it's your personal safety. When snow is that heavy, I tell you, we see people in the hospital come in all the time because of heart attacks or sprains and back problems. So that if you are challenged at all, and when I say challenged, I mean, if it's wet, heavy snow and you're not someone who does exercise on a regular basis, it's no shame, but don't try to be a hero. Ask for help, right? Absolutely ask for help, because this last storm, I'm telling you, that snow was dangerous for that reason. So, and number two, help your neighbors, right? Your elderly neighbors. If you have a snow blower, offer to do their driveway and do their sidewalks for them. And number three, patience above all, because our guys and gals, they're out there working 24/7 to get the streets, and they will get to the main sidewalks. They do. They always do. Especially during school time, right? Because the kids can't go back to school and walk on the street, right? It might take a little longer to get to some of the others because there's only so many people and so many contractors. So that would be the only advice I have. And lastly, if for some reason your street didn't get plowed, or if there's a problem, then I mean, I know people call me, or you put something in Q alert. But what you shouldn't do, and this is going to sound, I'm going to probably sound like an old person, but at the end of the day, posting it on a social media website isn't going to get the problem fixed, right? Because not everybody looks at those websites. The way you can get something fixed, if something didn't get plowed or you have an immediate need, pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone. I'm here all the time. People know how to reach me. I know my fellow city councilors are available all the time. The Q alert system can be challenging for some people. I know I've tried to use it myself a few times. So, but yeah, if you need help immediately, that's the best way to do it. The good old fashioned,
pick up the phone and
exactly.
It's good advice. And I think you raise a really important point. Is I'm relatively fortunate. I live on a pretty busy street, so the plows are coming by quite a lot. I'm a cutoff between Main Street and Wynn Street. This is police, fire, everybody goes through there, so they're able to keep that very, very clear for me. I have a side street on the other that doesn't get as much love because it's not as major road, but I'm lucky. I have easy ways of getting in and out of my house always, and I've never ever had an issue. I know there are some streets that are more remote that have fewer houses and less trafficked areas, and it's unfortunate that we can't do them all the time, but if somebody has an emergency and needs to get out and their road is not plowed, or they have a medical condition, or they need to get to work, or something is going on, that they should reach out and call. And
absolutely. And cul-de-sacs are always difficult because there's no place to put the snow when it ends up piled high, or so the way some of the streets are designed can be challenging, but our DPW, again, I can't say it enough, they are responsive, and if they know that there's a problem, they're there to fix it. So
yeah, and we have, look, trucks break down, things happen, and I just keep reaching out and people know. So, but thank you for the reminder to help each other out. I think that's great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Anything else you want to talk about before we pull in and start talking about the recreation programs?
No, I want you to get to Miss Rory because I want to hear all about it.
Me too. I'm
I
so
want to hear the
excited.
results of the survey, and she does great work down there. So, and hopefully in a couple of months, we'll all be able to, play pickleball in person.
Honestly, I'm telling you, I'm feeling like there's just going to be like these awkward hugs for about 6 months where people, we've stopped doing that for so long. We've
Right.
forgot how to like shake hands and things, and we'll have new ways of greeting each other, but we'll all get over it fast, I'm sure, once we get used to it. Rory, welcome back to the show. I'm really
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, Darlene.
Take care.
You too. So glad that you joined us. You had done a survey. I say a big survey because I saw it go out to a lot of places, and they had some great questions on us. Tell us a little bit about how many people filled it out and what we learned.
Yeah, so we figured during this time, obviously we're not doing a lot of programming because of COVID, so we figured this was a perfect time. We had talked about really reinventing ourselves, and with the new building at Spence Farm, and we really want to get a lot of community input into what types of programs that the residents of Woburn really want to see, especially not just at Spence Farm, but other places. So we figured this was the perfect time for us to do it. We're not wrapped up with basketball like we usually are in the winter and extremely busy. So we figured, let's do this now. So we spent some time I put together this extensive long survey. Myself and Brian and the Rec Commission went over it, and we felt that a long survey wouldn't get a lot of responses right away. So what we did was we sent out the mini survey, which was a quick 10-question survey, which really targeted what we wanted to know, which was what types of programs do you want? And then, so we had about, I think we sent that out the beginning of January, right after the first Rec Commission meeting. We've had over 300 responses, about 325, which is great. And then we've had almost very close to 200 responses for the long survey.
That's great.
Yeah, so I've gone through, and then we also put together an adaptive recreation survey as well, which I'm going to CPAC tomorrow to their Zoom meeting to try and get some more input as to regarding to adaptive programs for children with disabilities, adults with disabilities, for programs like that, geared towards that. So I've just started going through the mini survey results this past week before my Rec Commission meeting. I haven't even really looked too much at the long survey yet. We're going to close that out probably at the end of this week and go through that. Mini survey results, we've had some great positive feedback. 88% of the people that filled it out were either very satisfied or were satisfied with the programs, which is always really nice to see that, the people are really, enjoy what we're putting out. 77% of the people, will definitely register for future programs, which is good to know. There was a lot of different categories that we put out there that we wanted to see what type of interest people had. The number one great interest for people was sports and athletics, which not surprised by. Then followed by outdoor recreation, and then special events, which is where Spence Farm will kind of really come into play when COVID is almost over. And then a lot of people are looking for fitness programs, social programs, arts and crafts. Those are, not as big, but still a lot of people had checked that off. And then a lot more people are looking for more programs on the weekends, which is not surprising. And, it's during school vacations, during the week, kids seem to be pretty busy, and adults. So we'll start focusing more on weekend programs.
That's great. That's really good feedback. I'm so glad that you asked the community about that. One of the things that I know that I think I saw you post something about kayaking might be coming back to the pond. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I know last time we talked, a lot of people had been asking about kayaking, and a company had reached out to us called Coast to Coast Paddle. They are out of Beverly, I believe. And we met them down at Horn Pond about 2 weeks ago to go over the space. They're very excited. Typically their season runs, I believe, Memorial Day to Labor Day. So we're just finalizing the details with them. You know, we need to get a storage rack for kayaks, and other storage for flotation devices and paddles. But we're pretty excited that will definitely happen. I know the mayor's, you know, totally on board with something like this. So whatever we need from him, I'm sure he can make happen if we need to get something down.
I love
for
it.
them.
Maybe,
So
maybe you can team up and have a rec program. People build the storage
Yeah.
box or something, right? Wouldn't that be cool?
I
That'd be cool.
could, yes.
They're
So,
not super complicated. I mean, obviously you still need materials, but maybe a good, you know, Boy Scout project. Or
yeah,
something.
no, we're excited. We had talked to them and they said that once COVID hit, that they couldn't even, I mean, they were just slammed with people at their own facilities, that they couldn't even get any more life jackets. They couldn't get any more kayaks or paddles. So they said, we couldn't have even come to you if we wanted to. Like, he said, we would have loved to. We were just so busy. So,
Well, I'm glad we're planning ahead with their planning ahead now and their capacity for it. That's such great news.
me too.
Talking about outdoor recreation, I actually did a little snowshoeing the other day. I'm not, this is not a natural skill that I have, but I did not fall. So I'll take that as a victory and we'll count that. Where can people, so it's cold enough now, I imagine some of the skating areas are open, but tell us what's open and what's not, and where people might be able to do either skating or snowshoeing in the area.
So skating, I would not recommend going on Hon Pond. I know that there were people on there the other day. I don't think Hon Pond freezes too well. I think you need at least a foot or two of ice for the pond to really be safe. So I wouldn't recommend skating on Hon Pond. I don't even believe it's allowed. I think fire department came down and kicked everybody off. There isn't too many options in Woburn. I know there's a lot of different places that people go to off of Wildwood to go skating. I've seen kids there. I've seen there is a small pond. There was a small pond over at Spence Farm. Whether it's flooded or not, I do not know. I haven't been over there to see that. But we are actually doing public skating for February vacation over at the ice rink. We canceled all the ones during December, obviously due to the rise in COVID numbers. We didn't feel that it was, you know, warranted to really have it. But where our numbers are going down, we are going to go forward with public skating during February vacation at the ice rink. We're going to be limited with only 25 people at a time. So we're going to be doing reservations for it. So I'll be putting that out probably tomorrow, Wednesday for that. But it's good, you know, even if it's just 25 people, it's, you know, I wish we could do more, but it's something.
I have to tell you, doing things, you know, I know it's not great to have full capacity and it's really hard for restaurants and other businesses, but as a patron, it's actually sometimes nice to have things a little less crowded, and especially if you're new to skating and uncomfortable with it, it's nice to know you're not going to have lots of people whipping around. We had a skate rink, I thought, at Leland. Did we not open it this year?
So we didn't put up the outdoor rinks that we usually did. Typically they go up in December. The Parks Department decided not to put them up, you know, in conjunction of the mayor with the COVID numbers really rising during that time, that we didn't want to have people congregate and have all the kids be congregating, you know, and encourage that. It would have been a great year. I feel like every year we put them up, it's a warm winter. And so the fact that we didn't put them up is probably gonna be the reason why it's cold.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're gonna blame you for or give you credit for the great ski season, maybe.
Yes,
right?
exactly. So, but yeah, but I mean, snowshoeing is a great event to do. It's something really nice to do with your family too. And there's so many trails over at Hon Pond, Whispering Hill Woods, the Cranberry Bog, you know, in North Woburn by the dog park up at Middlesex Canal. There's one over off of Wildwood by the rifle range. There's a small walking trail too. So there's so many things that you can explore in Woburn, you know, on your own and socially distanced outside.
That's great. And I know I've seen some towns or places sort of lending snowshoes to residents who maybe don't have them and want to try it for the first time, or just, you know, don't want to make that investment. Do we have any capacity, or is there a place that you know of that does rentals for us?
We don't have that capacity. I would have to really look into that. It's actually really a great idea. You're the first one to ask me that. I know REI, I believe, rents them out, and there's also Ski and Sun Hut in Burlington that I believe would rent them out as well. So, but I
Awesome.
I
Well,
saw
maybe-
that a little bit. I'll have to look into
Yeah,
that.
that would be great to find out, because if it's something that we can, maybe pool and, make a donation of some
Yeah,
pairs.
I mean, it's something that's going to continue on, so it's something we can
Right.
maybe look into for next winter as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. That's awesome. So what else is going on? You've given us some great, we've got some good stuff coming at the spring in kayaking. You've been collecting some great stuff. Anything else going on that we want to make sure everybody knows about?
So we're just putting together, we're doing a couple in-person programs now that the numbers are going down. We're going to put out a few more small programs at Spence Farm, arts and crafts. We are doing an adult paint at the end of February that still has some spots in it. The kids paint one typically fills up very quickly when we put those out there. We have a yoga for kids class that will start up again in March. We're running one right now that's already full, small classes. We are doing some online fitness classes, and we just started a online. It's called esports. We teamed up with Arlington Rec, Wakefield Rec, Billerica Rec, Reading, and a few other towns. So it's like Madden, Super Smash Brothers. It's all online, Fortnite, and these kids, they register for it and they play in a league against each other where there's a referee online. It's a very up and coming thing.
Because of my young adult children, I'm very familiar with esports. I had no idea we had a league. They're probably aged out of the rec program, but that is really good to know.
Yeah, well, there's high school leagues. It's elementary and then middle and high school. And then Brian set the whole thing up. I kind of pushed that on him and said, run with it. And he ran with it and he did a great job. It was, he works well when you give him a good task to do. And he took that on, and it really has turned into something phenomenal. Because there's a lot of people out there that enjoy sports too, but maybe they're not good at it, but they like playing video games and they like that competitiveness, and right now that's all you can kind of do.
It's a wonderful way. And I know me personally, until I've seen my children sort of experience, I was really not aware of all the socialization that happens with a lot of these kinds of leagues and things. It's real interaction, it's competitiveness, it's team building, it's all the things that go along that we benefit from sports. Obviously not the exercise part necessarily, but certainly these other very healthy things that people interact with. So I'm so excited to hear that Woburn did that. I had no idea. That's a good one.
Yeah, we're talking about a college league too, or an older adult league as well. That's been talked about. Esports is very big in college, is what I've been told.
It is in my family, that's for sure. There's a lot of that going on. It's awesome to watch. I can't figure out what buttons do anything. I would be terrible at it, but I do love to watch people get excited and interact with people that they wouldn't normally meet too, right? If it's done in communities.
So it's pretty much like a Middlesex league, which is good. So you're playing against kids from other towns. And there's a referee, there's an adult there that's kind of watching it. You've signed all these waivers where you have to be in your best behavior. There's no bullying, there's no taunting. You are immediately kicked off if you're saying anything inappropriate at all. So
that's awesome. That is a really good. Anything else that you want? You got in your back pocket? I don't know. That was a good one.
Yeah, it wasn't. I forgot. Yeah, and then we've put together a couple like coding classes and stuff. We're going to start working on our spring and summer brochure to get that out there, and to put that out and hopefully have some more programs in there as well. Now that we can be outdoors and at Spence, now that we'll definitely be doing a lot more in the spring than we typically have in the past. And then the summer, I don't believe it will be the same as it was in the last summer. Hopefully our numbers, we can have bigger groups and, more programs than we did last summer. But I don't know where COVID will take us. So, but we'll plan for as normal as the summer as we can.
That's great. I think we'll all be looking forward to being as normal as we can. We probably won't be free of some level of restrictions and mask wearing and things, but because I just looking up the vaccine schedules, but hopefully be able to still do a number of things. And
yeah, hopefully we'll be able to open up the pools a lot more and to not have to have a small group. It actually worked out really well this summer with the pools. Having that reservation time slot was good. It made us aware of who was actually using the pool, and it made some of the pools that didn't have a lot of people at certain times actually did, because that was a time slot. So we found that the pools were used a lot more. And we found that any dead time, you know, we could actually close the block and send the guards home, you know, and stop payment if nobody was coming for the rest of the day. So,
well, that's actually a good point. So you could really see when people use it and
yeah, it worked out well. So hopefully we'll just be able to increase the amount of people that we have at the pools, but still keep some sort of reservation with that. So, because they are used a lot.
Yeah, when my kids were younger, we spent a lot of time at the pools in the summer. It was a great option for us to just be able to go cool off and splash around and have a pretty contained, safe area.
Yeah.
For them. And
yeah, we're looking for more lifeguards. So.
Oh, well, that's
yes.
good to know. I bet you there's a lot of people who might be looking for summer jobs.
Yes, so we will be looking for more lifeguards. Lifeguarding is a phenomenal job. I mean, whether you get a job here at Woburn Rock, everybody looks for lifeguards. There's a lack of them in this country right now. A lot of people just don't want to go take the test, and you know, it's a week-long test. It's very extensive, and there's a lot of responsibility that goes in with lifeguarding. You are responsible for people's lives. So
yeah, it's a great summer job though for those who are interested.
It's a great summer job. I mean, especially, you know, a small pool where we don't have a deep end, you know, we do, but we don't have diving, you know, we don't have an 8-foot deep end. So
you've got no currents and a tide, you're not on the beach. It's a relative,
right. You know, for the most part, as long as you're watching the pool, you shouldn't have too many issues.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, well, that's so great. I'm so glad to hear about all that stuff, Roy. Thank you for giving us an update. And as you get through like the next swath of the long survey and the adaptive surveys, if you want to come back on, just drop me a note and we'll come back on.
Absolutely.
And talk about those things. Those adaptive programs are really important. I know one of my children has some motor skill things, and when they were learning to ski, we used an adaptive ski program at a mountain, and it was just enough different that they learned right away, but it took an instructor who had some specialty skills in terms of how to explain things and a certain different kind of patience and just a different thing, right? It's just a different need. And we were so grateful that they had that. So I'm very happy to hear that the Woburn Rec Department is also coordinating with CPAC and others to make sure those things
we want more programs for that, you know, category as well. So that's what we want to really focus on, along with more programs for the adults in the community as well, because, you know, like Darlene said earlier, our community is growing. We have more and more residents that continue to come here, and our diversity is very great here. So we need to continue to offer more programs.
Awesome. Well, I love it. And I'm assuming that if anybody has particular talents that they want to share with the world, that they should get in touch with you as well.
Absolutely, yes. We're always looking for more instructors. Anybody that wants to teach a class, do something different, you know, feel free to reach out to Brian or I, and we can set something up.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you, Rory. And as always, thank you, Woburn, for tuning in and for continuing to take good care of each other.